So this is Triple. He's our 15-2 thoroughbred cross cob. He's been out of work for a little while now, and I just started doing some ridden stuff and the groundwork again with him. So what I wanted to go over today was some bending and counter bending and introducing counter shoulder in. I've already walked him round once or twice each rein whilst the camera's setting up, and then as normal I'm starting with the haunches out, whatever you want to think of it as, just as a warm-up really, to start getting him moving and thinking about where his legs are slightly. So you can see where my hand position is. I've got my left hand on the bit as if it's my inside rein, and I've got my right hand resting gently on his shoulder with a bit of outside rein to try and keep him straight. So what I'm going to demonstrate now is that my right hand is helping him, is supporting him as your inside leg would do. And I think we can all appreciate horses that fall in a lot and that put too much weight on the inside leg, especially when you ask for them for the bend. So you can see when I stop supporting him, he slightly falls in. He's not so bad this way. Most horses are more balanced and have better bend on the left rein than they do on the right. Generally, when you start to flex them on the right rein and want them to bend to the right, bend to the right, bend to the right, that's when they fall in, whether that's in hand or ridden. And then I'm going to change sides. So I'm going to take him round on the right rein now and do the same thing. And again, just to show how he'll fall in when I ask for the bend but don't support him. So again, I'm just doing a couple of little turns around the forehand. It's not quite a turn on the forehand, but you're asking him to bring the haunches round in a bigger circle than the forehand, like we've shown on the first set of videos. So we just do a couple of circles of that, again just getting him bending. We want the inside hind leg coming across, the outside shoulder to open. He's a little bit rusty with it. As I said, he's been off work for a while, which is why I'm doing these things with him. So I'm going to ask him as I come up here to flex right. He's a little bit distracted by something going on in the field, and you can see I haven't got my my left hand on him now, and I'm asking him to bend, and you can see how he's drifting. And if you watch very carefully, you can see how at times he puts a lot more weight down on his right front leg, like there, and that's what causes him to drift in, especially when I'm not supporting him. And again, he's kind of walking sideways with his inside leg, and that is quite often what causes them to fall in. And of course then people bend them the wrong way to bring them back over, the quarters fall into the arena, and you end up with a crooked horse. So it's really important to support them even in the in-hand work, even when you maybe just want them to go straight. You need to give them that support. So here I'm supporting him a bit more now. You can still see he's leaning on me and that he is still putting a bit too much weight down through that right shoulder and that right front leg, but he's able to stay straighter. So as he gets stronger, I'll be able to put less and less pressure on with my left hand, and he'll be able to carry himself that little bit better. So we're just going to change the rein through a nice turn. Again, getting him to really step over and across and to open up the hind legs. A nice square halt, or reasonably square halt anyway. So I've picked up the reins and I am now on the outside of him. And this is because I'm going to ask him to counter bend. So if you're really struggling with the bend to the inside, what you can do is use the fence to help you, and by bending them to the opposite direction on the opposite rein, you are increasing. So this way obviously I'm asking him to flex right, so I'm increasing the supplety to the right, and although it's not the correct bend technically in the sense of left rein, we're using the counter bend on the left rein to then help the correct bend on the right rein, and vice versa. So you can see the fence kind of acts as a barrier to keep him walking forward and keep him straight. What you do have to watch is that the quarters don't swing too much to the into the arena. Now when we start doing counter shoulder in, then that's slightly different, but if you're just asking for counter bend, then you want them to stay, you want their hind legs to walk into the hoof prints of their front legs, and to just we don't want them to have so much bend that they put too much weight then on the opposite shoulder. So I wouldn't want to flex him too much to the right to put too much weight on the left shoulder. It's just enough, and here I'm just walking him normally. You can still ask for true bend even when you're on the outside. You just have a little bit of tension across the neck, and then I'm going to ask him as we come round the corner, so I'm keeping him straight or in true bend, so left bend, as we come round the corner. And then this time I'm going to ask him to take the quarters out slightly and to almost do a counter shoulder in. So we want the 3 tracks, which he finds difficult because he's got to bend more. And it doesn't matter how slowly he goes. We don't want too much angle at this stage. It just helps to increase the bend and get the more subtlety or more suppleness on this right side, which is usually 90% of the time the horse's stiffer side. And then when we get down here, we can go back straight. And I'm just using the stick as an extension of my arm, and to just give him a little tickle and to remind him that he needs to bring the quarters out slightly. We don't want to push the quarters out. It's the fine line of asking the shoulders to stay where they are and for him to bend around. But it's harder when you don't have an inside leg to kind of ask for that. But you can use a little bit of pressure just behind the shoulder, kind of where your leg would be, to ask them to bend around that pressure as opposed to take the quarters out. With the counter shoulder in, because you've got the fence to help you, you can get away with asking the quarters to come out a little bit more than asking the shoulders to come round. So again, I've swapped sides. So I'm now asking him to flex left, which surprisingly he started off finding a little bit harder. So you can see as I go up this long side now, I just want him to walk straight, and you can see actually he's taken his quarters slightly to the inside, which is something he does naturally. And again, a lot of horses on the right rein, they want to flex to the left anyway and then bring the quarters out or into the arena. So it's quite good for him to learn that he can flex to the left and walk straight. If you start getting too much, the quarters start swinging too much, then you want to take a little bit on your outside rein, which in this case is your right rein, because it's the opposite to the bend. And I just asked him to keep the counter flexion around the corner then, which he found quite hard because he had to move his shoulders round almost in a sort of a pirouette style or a turn on the haunches style, which just with the wrong bend, which is quite difficult for him. It really means he's got to mobilise his shoulders. So you can build up to doing that after they've learnt to counter bend and do counter shoulder in. That can be a good next step. Or just say even before the counter shoulder in, actually you can start doing the straight lines, then building up to adding in the corners and building up to doing the whole way round. So again, just throwing in some of the other suppling exercises. Again, looking for that nice cross, but keeping the forward motion. And again, I'm just little tickles, asking him to come over. You can see it's crossing nicely behind. He could open through the shoulder a little bit more, and a nice halt as well. So again, using that pressure of the whip on the neck to ask him to stop. And he's actually brought his other hind leg under, although he was resting it. So even though we're looking at the bending and counter bending, it's still good to add in these other exercises. So we're doing a bit of a leg yield. I got a little bit too much bend there from him, and he's finding it difficult, so he's resisting slightly, but he's not doing too badly. So again, we're just going to show, I think I asked him just to bend first. So it's trying to keep him, we're doing counter shoulder in first. So I'm asking for that clear 3 track, nice bit of bend. using the stick every now and then just to ask him to come across. And you can see he finds that difficult, but the fence is stopping him from falling in. So if we, say for example, took the fence away, then it would just be shouldering to the left. It's no different. I'm asking him for a little bit more bend now, or a bit more angle, sorry, just to try and get the hind legs coming underneath a bit more. So it kind of turns into a bit of a shoulder, a bit of a leg yield, and then he gets stuck in the corner slightly. It's because it's difficult for him. He's got to think differently about how he's using his body. And then we go back to true bend. Now you can see the difference, and he kind of releases his shoulder then as well, so it's a good suppling exercise for them. Even if they maybe do bend well both ways, it can still be good to get them to release with the counter shoulder in. If they're a bit tight in their shoulders sometimes, it can be quite helpful, or they're a bit tight through their neck. It's still as it's shoulder in, it is a collection tool, so you can start building it up with that. And obviously it's good to swap between counter shoulder in and shoulder in. So we're just going true bend now, and I'm trying to keep him nice and straight so he doesn't swing the quarters. And now we've gone back to counter bend. And again, I'm just trying to keep him straight, and you can see how difficult he finds it to go straight. And notice how my right rein isn't bagging. I have a reasonable contact through there because I don't want him to overbend too much and then to swing the quarters into the skull. Okay, we've got a bit of counter shoulder in now. Come round the corner. And then just up the 3/4 line just to track our straightness, which doesn't look too bad. His quarters aren't swinging out massively to the right now. And then see, he's leaning on me there. I've asked him for left bend, and he's kind of falling in on that left shoulder, so I'm having to help him, and now he's a bit straighter again. So adding these exercises into just, your warm-up or your daily routine, every now and again. You can do it when you're out hacking along the hedge line. It's a really good one, and especially for those of you that do struggle with horses falling in, more commonly on that right rein. This is how you can help that. You can ask for the right flexion on the left rein, and the fence will guide you both. And as they get stronger, then you'll find that actually the right bend on the right rein will start to get better as they start to learn to balance themselves. You can do it down the centre line and just check in, or on the 3/4 line. See if they'll bend slightly to the left and stay straight through their body, bend slightly to the right and stay straight through their body. And eventually you can build up to doing that in shoulder in as well, and seeing if you can keep them. That's really tricky for them to stay on those 3 tracks down the centre line. But yeah, using the fence and the fence line to really help you with the bend, whether it's left or right bend, doesn't matter which rein you're on, you're still flexing the horse in that way. And of course the counter shoulder in, majority of the time when you start the shoulder in, if you start with shoulder in first, what happens is the horse falls in, puts too much weight on the inside shoulders, gets too much bend, falls in on the track and gets heavy in the hand, and the whole point of it being a collection exercise kind of goes out the window. But by using the counter shoulder in and being able to keep them going along the track and not falling in because the fence is there, it starts to build the correct muscles up so that they can you're able to do it on the correct rein because the muscles are there and they've done it. They know kind of what you're asking them to do mentally and physically, and it makes such a big difference to teach the counter shoulder in, whether that's in hand or ridden first. So we'll be covering the shoulder in soon, and I'll probably do that as a whole topic on its own as opposed to bending as well. Make sure before you start having a go at the shoulder in that you have a go at this first. Still do all your other exercises, the haunches out, the leg yields as well, and your flexions too, so that they understand to give when you ask with the inside or outside rein, whatever they understand to yield and to flex that way, and making sure that they'll come down and that they're soft and that they'll walk with you, all the basic bits, and then these bits are easier in the long run.